When we were looking for an intake for our Silverado project, we contacted Airaid because we've used their intakes on previous projects and we're quite happy with the results that we got. Their kit features a brand new reusable air filter, a new air box to replace the factory one, intake tube, and all the couplers you need to get this into your pre-runner. So the first place to start is to remove the factory intake.
Remove the factory engine cover by lifting up on the front and then pulling the cover towards the front of the vehicle. Separate the factory intake tube from the plastic clamp that secures the radiator hose to the tube. Loosen 3 hose clamps, one at each end of the factory intake tube and one at the end of the mass airflow sensor. Slide the factory intake tube off of the mass airflow sensor and the throttle body. Disconnect the plug from the mass airflow sensor. Remove the factory airbox. You can see the difference between the factory air filter and the one that comes with the Airaid intake kit. The factory air filter is all paper and it's just really restrictive. Now the Airaid filter has a lot more surface area, so you know it's going to flow a lot more air. To mount the new Airaid airbox, you're going to use these 4 10mm bolts that hold down the factory intake base. You remove these bolts, put in the new Airaid airbox, and reuse these bolts in the same location. Using the supplied hardware, we're going to be installing the filter adapter. Reinstall the factory mass airflow sensor and don't forget to plug it back in. Using the supplied hose clamps, we're going to be installing this coupler to the mass airflow sensor. Airaid supplies you with a new breather line to go from the intake tube to the valve cover on the motor. They give you this barb fitting that's already pre-threaded. You just thread it right into the actual intake tube, tighten it up with a 14mm wrench, then you can run the new line from that barb fitting directly onto the valve cover. We've installed the second coupler provided by Airaid onto the new intake tube. This side will actually go onto the throttle body, and this side will plug in over by the mass airflow sensor. Now that we have our air filter in place, the last step in installing this intake is putting this rubber gasket around the top of the air box. That way it'll seal when the hood comes down. Total install time for one of these Airaid systems is about 30 minutes, and all it requires is simple hand tools. So if you're looking to get more horsepower out of your pre-runner, visit airaid.com.